Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Monday, November the 14th, this regular board meeting. So first item is to approve the agenda. A motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda.
A motion. Second. A motion and second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Appreciate everybody being here this evening. So thanks for coming to discuss board business or to hear us discuss board business. One of the things we want to do tonight is recognition of students. So we have some students here who participated in fall activities. So I believe we have the state cross country team with medalists. Come on in, guys. Come on in. Don't be shy.
These are your all-state cross-country runners. Thank you for having us. In the middle, Janae got 16th state meet. Freshman Kylie Fitzmeyer was 14th state meet. Sophomore Lauren Smith was 5th at the state meet. And Grant, who we're going to miss next year, is going to graduate this year, was 3rd in the boys race. Ladies led our team to a 4th place finish, points away from getting a trophy, and Grant was our lone representative on the boys' side.
Grant or girls, any aspirations to run at the next level?
Fortunately, no.
Okay.
Well, thank you for representing our district so well. We're proud of each of you. So thank you for being good representatives on and off your sport.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, received communications. Does anybody have any communications to report or talk about tonight? Then we'll move on to citizens open forum. We do have 3 individuals and 3 separate topics that citizens want to speak to us about this evening. So we'll start at the first of the list. Jan Peterson, district liability.
You want to read your?
Yes, thank you. Before we do that, sorry, thank you, Paige. I do want to read, like I usually do, if we have someone that wants to speak. The board appreciates patrons taking time to talk to us about our policies and procedures. We set aside this time every meeting to hear from the public. Your comments should be directed towards board policy or the procedures our administrators established to carry out those policies. This is not an appropriate time or place for patrons to make comments of a personal nature about any district employee or student. Persons making comments which violate the privacy rights of district employees and students will be asked to stop speaking or cease their remarks. If a patron or parent has a concern with one or more employees, the board will refer that person to the appropriate administrator and the board will follow up at a future meeting. Persons speaking will be allowed 3 minutes each to express their opinions. In cases where a large number of patrons have similar opinions, a single speaker should be chosen to represent the larger group. Thank you for taking your time to discuss district business with the board.
I'm going to talk about liability issues for the district. In the last couple of months, since football season started, actually, since the Super Bowl, since Odell Beckham's knee injury, there's been a spotlight on artificial turf and injuries. And there's been a lot in social media. There's been a lot in, well, every kind of media. If you watch ESPN, if you are part of any of the players' Twitter accounts, you know, I was going to read some of the articles. I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to make a couple notes. August the 7th in Forbes magazine, Ian Cheng of the American Academy of Pediatrics have a really good article on injuries due to artificial turf. November the 7th, Forbes magazine, J.C. Treader, former Green Bay Packers center and president of the National Football League Players Association, had a real good article and made the comment, the argument against turf is an easy one. It is harmful to athletes, period. November the 12th, Chiefs quarterback Mahomes joined with other NFL players in demanding that they implement safer playing surfaces. Anyhow, the articles are easy to find. Anybody can look them up. But there's been a lot of publication on that in the last, I'm gonna say in the last 10 months. I was gonna read some of those articles in full because they're very interesting, but they really only reiterate what we've been telling the board about the new stadium project in the last 10 months. And we kind of feel like it's becoming a real issue of negligence on the board's part if they don't heed the warnings of professionals, you know, on this. It's more expensive to replace an artificial surface with natural than it is to replace a natural surface with artificial. An artificial surface begins with concrete underlay, then the grass, and then the rubber pellets that are put in and raked and raked and raked until the grass is brought up. And in some instances that actually I know of, you know, with a big downpour, those pellets can float up and off. And I've talked to a lot of coaches, and I've talked to a lot of parents of players, and I've talked to a lot of parents that are on what is called maybe like our PEP or what they call quarterback club, you know, parents that volunteer before and after stadium events. And after these big rain events, they're called to bring their shovels and rakes.
Jan, you're approaching 3 minutes.
Okay, I get 5. That's what the
I said three. I
okay,
said three.
that's fine. Well, you're taking my time, anyhow. But anyhow, these parents are approached to bring their shovels and their rakes to get this debris off.
Okay,
Now,
thank you very much. I appreciate it. Would you go ahead and sit down? Thank you. We'll give everybody else 3 minutes as well.
3 minutes, that's it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
well, the program says we're allowed 5.
Why, when you sign up, does it say 5 right above your signature, but you only allow us 3?
I said 3, so it says 3 in my notes here, and it says 3 in the
It
citizens.
said 5 where we sign up.
We're gonna do.
That's
three.
okay. I had some
Yeah,
really,
3.
really
Thank you.
interesting liability issues. But if you're not at all interested in hearing them, it's more negligence on your part.
Thank you. Dave? Sir Mark, or talk about the stadium?
Yes.
Okay, before I begin, Dan, on the sign-up sheet, of course, stated 5 minutes. So I assume we'll be allotted 5 minutes.
No.
It's-
If that's the case, then why is
In the
that?
board agenda, it says 3 minutes, and you all have public access to that, so it says 3 minutes. We'll get the form corrected. I'm sorry. We've done 3 minutes in the
I
past.
appreciate that. Thank you.
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, I want that reflected for the record, please.
Okay, for sure.
Okay.
I'll just run that. Thank you.
And I'm basically here this evening because I'm extremely concerned on how this board has conducted its oversight of Harlem Bridge Stadium. For instance, and I know that a lot of us here at all probably know the history of why this stadium was named after Harlem Bridge. One thing, he was credited for inventing the wing T offense football formation. For another thing, he was a football coach and track coach here for many years at this district. And he was also inducted into our own school district Hall of Fame and the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. So he has held a personal and community distinguished career throughout the years for this community. Now, even with our community having such a distinguished landmark, such as that stadium, then now we're at a point now we're basically gonna name the new proposed stadium after people who basically donated the most money. So we're eliminating the community landmark in Ottawa. We're actually not, we're just eliminating that name completely. Right there. That right there, I have a big issue about. Now, another thing is the board aware of the Kansas Preservation Act? states KSA 75-2724. State departments, public officers and employees, Article 27, State Historical Society. Historic preservation, development projects, threats to historic property, procedures for determining factors, judicial review, penalty, failure to follow procedures, delegations, cities, counties, or state board of regents or education institutions. Now, has the school district ever submitted a SHPO inquest to the State Historical Preservation Office? That basically being that stadium is a WPA project. Before you made this decision to sell the property, after that's what I'm just checking to see if you ever made in the records, you had a request to the State Historical Office. It's determined before you made the eligibility to sell the property. Obviously not, because I looked through and I have a documented timeline of the board meeting documents dating back to September 14, 2022. This is under the USD 379 Educational Program, Facility Concepts and Recommendation Planning Project. Number 8, football stadium. Utilize property for city recreation programs, private sector commercial development. Did the board review any options at that point in time to see if it was on the historical landmark status? Or did you bother to check with the city Clay Center to see if they were interested? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on then to the third.
Let us know.
Jonathan Burling, tennis courts.
I intended to email all of you the photos that I took, but unfortunately that didn't work, so I brought my computer. And I hope this will suffice, I guess. So. First of all, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. The purpose of my request is to bring to your attention the poor condition of our tennis courts, which are used by our students and patrons alike. I have a few photos I'd like to show you. I think there's 12 total. And my daughter did a slideshow, but I couldn't figure out how to get it to go. So these are just different photos. I could email or text these to you at another time if you would like. That's the last one. As these photos showed, we have many cracked surfaces within the courts and around the outside of our courts, with weeds growing up in those, small chunks of concrete laying throughout the courts, which over time can be unsafe for our players. A section of our fencing has boards filling the gaps, and no seating for spectators, just to name a few. While both my daughter's tennis careers are now over, I would like to advocate for tennis players that will come to your district in the future. After being told that resurfacing of the tennis courts is on the 5-year plan, I proceeded to look at the 5-year capital improvement plan for the district. There is a line item for tennis court resurfacing, but $0 in budget columns for the years 2022 all the way through 2027. While I completely understand that not all activities or athletics are given or need the same amount of funding, I would like to ask you to be mindful of providing the same quality of opportunity for all of our students. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the next section, which is positive board comments. Sure.
Is this also where you want us to talk about what we learned on Saturday?
We're gonna take back the board reports.
Okay.
Well, I would like to, just commend our, athletic teams here at Play Center. We have 3 regional championships, volleyball, cross country, and, football, obviously. I think that's really impressive. We also have state qualifiers for golf and tennis. Football team is still playing in the snow past the, time change, so that's quite an accomplishment. That I've also been very impressed with the sportsmanship I've seen in all of the games where we haven't had issues with behavior, the student section with excellent behavior and participation. And it's been great to see our schools well represented on and on. Yep. Anything else?
I have several things that I wanted to lift up as just wonderful successes of our students. I just wanted to thank the high school staff who took time to plan a trip for both Wakefield and Play Center students to go to Fort Hays State for a college visit. It's a great opportunity for kids to get to go and see what is beyond Clay County for their secondary options. We have some members that participated in the regional choir and band competitions in the last couple of weeks. The musical was this past weekend, and that is always a great way to honor the students in the arts. I want to thank all the staff members and administrators and counselors and support staff that help make parent-teacher conferences possible. That's a really important time when parents can meet with staff members and check in on their students. And I know it takes extra effort to get ready for them. And I'm just very thankful to the staff for doing those extra hours to meet with the parents in this last month.
Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the presentation section. We have 2 presentations this evening. The first is the annual financial audit.
Snowy night to drive over from Manhattan.
I'm glad you made it safe for me there.
So April Swartz, Varney Associates, this is a pleasure again to do your audit. We came over and spent a day with Andrea and did the field work and with Brett. And the letter that you've received is a clean letter. There are no adjustments again this year, so your numbers are the same as what they were when I presented them to you before. As you know, you report under the regulatory method, which is a cash basis. So if you'll turn to page, if you have this in front of you, oh, I guess you do, brother. Turn to page 4. Page 4 is the actual statement, financial statement of the district. Again, these are the same numbers you would have seen when administration gave you the year-end total. You can see that the district started the year with $6,080,000, and you took in about 28.7 million. You expended 27.7 million, and you ended the year with 7.1 million in unencumbered cash. Then we do add back the accounts payable that aren't paid until after year end to come to your reconciled bank balances. And you can see below there that the bulk of the money is in Union State Bank, with a little bit in United Bank and Trust and a little in the Riley State Bank. The next several pages are the footnotes, which I will not go through and read to you. I'm sure you're glad of that. But if you will turn to page 8, 8 is a summary of the debt of the district. You did issue a refunding bond during 2022. So you will see that your 2015 bond was paid way down. There's still a little bit of a balance remaining. You have the 2022 refunding bond, and you also have an HVAC lease that you're also paying on. All payments were made timely and in accordance with the amortization schedules. The amortization of those debts are listed there below, so you can see when they do pay out. Then if you will flip to page 13, 13 is where we document the fact that the district did not overspend in any of its budgeted funds. So you can see that not all funds are budgeted, but the bulk of the funds are. The certified budget was $35,437,449. There's an adjustment made to comply with the legal max, which you get that from the state of Kansas. You also get to apply budget credits. So your total budget that you could expend was $35,273,000, and the district expended $27,410,000, so under budget by $7.8 million. So there were no funds that were over budget. The next page is where we start all the individual funds, and I'll only go through the general fund. The rest are presented the same way. The general fund, you can see your actual
revenues and expenditures compared to budget. This just gives you more detail than what you get on that page one, where you just get a total by fund. So all the funds follow there behind. Then if you turn back to page 36, this is the start of the federal piece of the audit. So since your district expends more than $750,000 in federal dollars, you get the privilege of having a second audit while we're here. So this is the audit the federal government requires. The first 4 pages from 36 on are the opinions related to that. They are clean opinions. If there had been any findings or question costs, those would be identified here. There were not. You turn to page 40. This shows a total of the federal money expended by the district. And for FY22, you expended 2.6 million. We are required to test 40% of those expenditures. So this year we tested the food service cluster of programs, and that's how we got our coverage. And then finally on page 42 is the schedule of findings and question to cost. And as I said, there were no findings or question to cost. About 2/3 of the way down, it does say auditee qualified as low risk auditee, and the answer is no. That will always be no, because it's due to the basis of accounting that you follow. So that's not a bad thing. It just means we have to test 40% versus 20. Any questions? Is that too brief?
No.
Trying to keep it under 3 minutes.
All right. Any questions?
And if you do have questions later, you go home and you read this thing in detail and you have questions, they can reach out to me. We can chat. We're happy to answer any questions.
Something cool that I think it's neat that Andrea figured out a way in our new financial software to get them a login. And so you guys can do a lot of work before they get here, and they have access to all of our data inside our financial software.
Yeah, so we can't change anything or make changes, but we can go in and view it. And so when it comes time for the audit, we can pull down the reports we need. It saves the district time and saves us time. It works well. All right, thank you all.
For your work.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for being here. Okay, perfect.
So Jessie and her nursing cohorts have been talking about a few different things for a few months, and sampled some different policies from around the state, and inquired with council both locally and at KSB. As you know, the opioid overdosing situations are running rampant in our country. We haven't had any problems in our county yet as a school district. I shouldn't say county, in the school district. Some local schools around us have. And so we investigated, and Jessie did a ton of legwork on this, and also ended up inheriting a policy that KSB has written for other school districts. It's in your packets and public content, but it would be to house Narcan within our school buildings. And a lot of times, and just you're going to be much more fluent than this. It's not necessarily a student maybe taking an opioid, but there's certain pills that even if somebody would pick up, like without gloves on, that could cause them to overdose. And so having this available in our schools, and that's about as much knowledge as I have. So
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's been watching the news at all, this is blasting throughout the nation. You know, I don't want anybody to think that we're insinuating that our students are drug addicts or anything like that, you know. We have people that are taking pain medication because maybe they had a knee surgery or something, and they could just have a reaction to an opioid that they are not aware of and just become unconscious and that type of thing. So it's just a safety precaution just to have. With Narcan, you know, I would not advocate for a medication to be housed in school for just anybody to use if I did not feel it was completely safe. If you give Narcan to an individual that you suspect that might be having a opioid overdose, and they're not having an opioid overdose, it's something else per se, you cannot hurt that individual. If that makes sense. So I just want to make that clear. So the liability with hurting somebody by giving it to somebody that it's not really made for is safe. So I just wanted to make that clear, just in case people were not aware of that. So.
Any questions for Jessie?
So we approve this policy, when is this gonna take place?
Well, it can take place as soon as you ever want it. We're on lists already. This is an issue. So there's a shortage of Narcan throughout the United States. So even before coming here, I went ahead and put our name on lists, thinking it would take a while. Anyway, so I'm not for sure when that will be, but I contacted our local pharmacies and, they said they can't give us free Narcan, but they could sell it to us by cost, and it would be $65 for a packet of 2. And that would be like per school. So if that is something you guys want to move forward on, instead of waiting for the free Narcan to come, there's that option as well.
Okay, so my next question is, who's gonna get trained to do this?
Anybody that wants to. It's already sort of part of our CPR training. We touch on it. I thought we could just implement a further training into our CPR training, which is, coaches, bus drivers, really anybody that wants to take it, we offer that. And anybody, of course, that wants to. I always say, knowledge is power. So anybody that would like to sign up for a training, the training is easy. It's basically watching a very thorough video and then going over it with me. So it's not like a 3-hour type of training.
And Jesse, you might mention, because we met with local law enforcement here a couple weeks ago. And they actually had one, and I had no idea how it was administered, but after that was explained, it made more sense.
Yeah. It's just a nasal spray up the nose.
But is the training gonna take place before we put this in our school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And who has access and how are you going to
Well,
restrict that or monitor that?
the way that some schools are, I don't want to make it not available. So like, for instance, just like our AEDs, they're open to public. For use, outside of our gymnasiums and that type of thing. I've talked to other schools about how they're housing theirs. And a lot of schools are housing it with their AED supplies. So it's right there available that we can get into. I don't want to make it so if we're in a situation and I have to tell someone, go get it, they have to unlock doors and time is of the essence in this type of situation. So that's what I'm thinking.
So your suggestion would be then, from a time frame perspective, if we were to wait and not go the $65
Mhm.
route through the local pharmacy, any idea, are we talking 3
They-
months,
They
next
can't
year?
tell, they
No
can't
clue.
tell me,
Waiting list, yeah, waiting list.
which, we could use that maybe that time, I don't know if we're looking at 3 months to 6 months. They can't, the pharmaceutical companies just can't keep up with the production of the drug right at this point. Because people, lay people can go into the pharmacy and obtain this actually from the pharmacy themselves. It's not just schools or other entities, it's people can go in to have
So
it.
it's an over the counter.
It's over the counter. Which I don't want to say over the counter that you can go up and buy off the counter. The pharmacist has to give it to
Right.
you. Yeah.
So your recommendation would be then per school?
Mhm. Yes, so if the first one doesn't work, which that is a very likely thing, you get the second dose after 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, if the first dose doesn't work. It's really, I feel like kind of a mute point if you don't have to.
And when Chief Robinson was here last week or the week before, he described he's using it before with an unconscious, like
Yes,
unbreathable individual, gave him one, didn't work, gave him another one, and they just shot up like that. And the way he described it, they were basically.
Yeah.
Fine.
So if my math is right, then for the schools, we could, if we wanted to, make a motion and approve this $65 per and spend $325 and not have to wait.
and that $65 was a month ago, so.
It could be up or not.
And this is board policy, and so generally our practice has been we let the policy set for 30 days and then you guys
Mhm.
approve. There's nothing written that we have to do that. We've just done that to give, because generally we bring you 50 pages of policy and, so that would be something to think about too, if you didn't want to wait the typical 30, if you wanted to approve the policy. Then you would need to do that.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve this policy, forgo the additional 30 days. Obviously, welcome to the discussion. And also to move forward with the $65 per school. Unless that charge has gone up. I guess within reason, maybe up to the max of
Well-
$400. So
I don't know that a price point is.
I mean, I agree unless you
Is
want some
necessary,
restrictions, but
You could just,
Reasonable.
I mean,
Let's make a motion to pass the policy.
yeah,
sure,
Yeah.
okay, I make a motion to pass the policy then, tonight.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor? The motion carries 7-0.
And where in the policy book is this going to be? Under what?
KSB sent Dusty an email. We'll get their recommendation on where to go.
it has a number, I don't know.
I see the number, but that doesn't give us a section.
Oh, okay.
It'll go where in that area where our other health stuff is. Where our EpiPen and that kind of stuff is, but we'll shoot KSB an email and ask them where to put it. And then tell us where the appropriate place is.
No, I just think before we have. Now, I'm not against buying it, I'm against putting it in the schools, but I think we ought to plan about who's getting trained and how they're gonna get trained, when they're gonna get trained before we make it accessible to our people. The teachers. I just think if we got a plan, we can get it from our pharmacy if that's the plan, and then if it's available, and it doesn't matter what it's costing, because it's gonna be cheaper than waiting 6 months or 3 months or whatever. But we need to set up a plan on how we're gonna train the staff. Then we're gonna do that before it's made accessible to the staff. That's just-
When can that training take place? Typically,
I need to talk, we're short a nurse here a little bit. So we need to just kind of. Need to talk it over with how our staffing situation is with things right now. And it could just, it's an easy training.
Well,
It
I'm not-
might be one of those things where if we have 4 people trained and then as word gets out, maybe more and more people want to be trained.
But I think you ought to have somebody at least knows what they're
Yeah.
doing before we make it. Oh, we got it, let's use it, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think, whatever it takes to buy it. Or buy buildings, are you gonna put some in here? In this building?
We didn't discuss that.
Well, we got,
I'm gonna
Not
take
s-
that into consideration.
not saying somebody can't walk in the door and boom, So it could be more than just. Skilling with our students.
Jeff, how do you feel about having it at, like, the bus barn, for example? It would
Well,
be a
it's
separate
another
building.
place too, it's just. Anybody can walk in there, or something's going on or whatever, and
Mhm.
something happens, If we're gonna make it available at other places, we need to make
Now,
it available.
the way I understand the free Narcan, it's for school buildings.
Okay,
So I'm just putting that out
Sure,
there.
okay.
If we get the free comes about, I think it's limited to the school building.
buildings.
Yeah.
So if we have to buy it for the others,
Mhm, yeah,
but we're gonna buy the first round anyhow.
probably,
So
most likely, unless we get some,
something drastic happens.
Mhm.
So as far as, it may sit in here and never ever get used, but if
Does it have a long,
we think it's
shelf life.
shelf life is approximately 2 to 3 years.
oh,
2 to 3.
Mhm. Depending on, the production of,
right,
So we can develop a plan for training and help support you in that and kind of lay it out across buildings and places, make sure we have a good plan in place and get that taken care of. Then we'll let you Take it from there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to the consent agenda. Any questions about any item in the information? Anything anybody wants to discuss further? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the items in the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, next item is reports. First item under reports is board reports. I did ask members of the board that attended the KASB annual convention in Wichita this past weekend to report out a couple of takeaways from the breakout sessions that we all attended. So that was Linda, Jason, Paige, and myself, along with Mr. Nelson. Just a quick summary of the day. So the day began with really a keynote kind of presentation by Randy Watson, who's the Kansas Education Commissioner for our state. And he gave us quite a few things to think about just from a, where's the state going from a funding perspective? What are some of the major legislative issues that, everyone is talking about? One of those large ones is special education and what the funding looks like for that going forward. So there's going to be a lot of things that we, as a board, will have the opportunity potentially to discuss in the future. A lot of other things related to assessments, so state assessments, and level 1 to level 3 and 4, and where students within the state and by district fall within those levels. And then we also obviously have our own report of how our district compares to other districts across the state. So that was some good information as well. But I'd like to give the other board members an opportunity that attended to take, to share some takeaways if they like. So.
And I do have his presentation.
Okay.
I got it today, so I'll send it to you guys. It has some neat data in it, so.
Well, on that note, I'll talk about two of the sessions I attended, because the first one was data literacy, presented by the Topeka School District. They discussed the importance of making your decisions based on data rather than emotions, and talked about how making sure your sources are credible. So don't rely on the media, don't rely on social media, but actually find research-based evidence. Even when you're looking at what someone calls data, make sure that they're looking for volume, velocity, variety, and veracity of the data source. Look for patterns over time rather than fluke one-time events. And then specifically, he listed out some reputable sources for school districts data, including KASB, the KSDE's kids site, and the KSD report card. That report card is one that's really interesting to me to dig into and see how we compare throughout the district, throughout the state, and with national level. Just a good measure of where we're at academically. The other session I attended was on strategic planning put on by Clearwater School District. They just went through the process that we are starting right now. And they just walked through how their process went. They also had help from the state as we are getting. And then they talked about how they implemented the plan once it was done. It was just some great little things that they did to make sure that they heard from everybody. Everyone felt they had a voice and input into the process, and then how to make sure that we put that on our forefront so that when we're making decisions throughout the district, that we're doing that based on the strategic plan that's outlined by our committees that are being formed right now. So those were two of the sessions I attended.
I'm just going to share about one this month, and then I'll carry over to some other months with some other information. But one of the sessions I attended in the morning was about local advocacy networks and how we can use people within our community to advocate for our schools, not only locally, but also at the state level. And just gave us some information about how we need to use our positive stories and our data to advocate for student and district funding at the state level. And met with the people who work with KASB to advocate for school boards and schools across the state, big and small. With that, on a separate topic, I had already invited Senator Tom Hawk to come to our district, and he came today to the high school and Ms. Pullman's government class. A couple students gave him a tour of the high school, and he met with the class and answered questions about the state legislature with the seniors. And then Mr. Nelson and I had a chance to visit with him about some policy and some funding that we would like him to look at, including fully funding special education next year. So it was a good day to have him in our district, and he got on the road before it started snowing. So a special thanks to Senator Hawk for coming to our schools and being in the school to see our kids and what we're doing in our buildings.
Couple of them I went to was school finance and negotiations. Being the first year board member, it was helpful just to hear other people ask questions and kind of also what not to do sometimes in negotiations. Because there's still several districts that don't have a budget or a contract.
Negotiating contract.
Interesting.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to report? We'll move on then to Mr. Nelson's superintendent report.
I'd like to start with, do you want me to hop on? Is that gonna be easier? You tell me whatever is easier. Oh, you got it right there. So this is a video that our Tiger News television class made. And it's celebrating some of our successes from around the district. It's based around the 5 state outcomes that the state board set a number of years ago. And so, and Jacqueline, we're using this for our OBT visit too, correct? So as we finish up our KISA cycle, we have to show evidence of things that we have done and progress that we've made towards our goals. And so this is a video student made that celebrates various aspects of the 5 state board outcomes. And so it's neat. It's our kids, it's our schools. Yeah.
The full day preschool experience really offered a lot of, especially in my instance, I have twin girls. One of them has some sensory processing delays, so she gets very overstimulated. She gets very overwhelmed by even like this things like the smallest of things could set her into, she just can't learn, she can't take on the information. And having the opportunity to have the girls inside of the kindergarten or the preschool, like the kindergarten readiness classes, really gave her an opportunity to, I think, mature enough to where she was able to just process those certain things and actually take on the information. As for just general kindergarten readiness, it really helped them understanding what their routines were going to be inside the classroom, what they needed to be doing with different teachers or different classmates, how to deal with the social aspects of things. But I seriously cannot rant and rave more about our experience with it. And I think that having 2 children in there because of me having twins, having the 2 children in there, it was very interesting seeing how the teachers interacted with each of them to prepare them differently.
USD 379 is doing some great work with their kindergarten readiness task force and also through the Citizens Review Committee. I'm excited to participate in both of those groups and help advise from an economic development perspective. A lot of my research has proven that early learning is critical for our youth, and most development happens before the age of 5. So if we can invest in early learning and kindergarten readiness, it will help to improve our economic situation. A research article from the Minneapolis Department of Treasury has indicated that for every dollar you invest into early learning and childcare, you will receive anywhere from a $5 to $16 return on your investment as a community. So every time that we work together as a community and as a school district to improve the kindergarten readiness and early learning opportunities for the children in our community, we're benefiting greatly. I was also excited as I served on the Citizens Review Committee, and childcare and early learning and kindergarten readiness was a dominating topic in every single one of those meetings with various community members. I'm excited to continue that work further as we have received a Rural Champion grant where we will have someone who will work on early learning and childcare for a whole year, and to be able to help improve the situation and continue the work and the talks that have been had through the Citizens Review Committee. I'm just really excited. I'm very passionate about early learning and childcare, and it is paramount to the economic health and development of our community. Childcare and early learning should be as important as sewer and water and streets. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And I look forward to the things that will happen with the Citizens Review Committee and through the Kindergarten Readiness Task Force.
I'm Isabel Blackwood. I'm a sophomore at CCCHS. In 8th grade, I met with my mom and a counselor to plan my 4-year high school plan. And it went into my IPS folder. And since then, it's been updated every year. I meet with a counselor and update my 4-year plan. So this is my folder, and inside it, it has my 4-year plan. So it has all my classes and my credits. So I know what credits I've taken and when I need to take them. It has my college plan and what I'm involved in. So when I get looking at careers and resumes, this can all go in my folder.
So Izzy, what do you want to do after high school?
I want to go to business school.
And what's your ultimate career goal?
I am planning on taking over my family company of training service dogs for people with disabilities.
What are you doing in high school as far as what classes you're taking to try to help you prepare you for that goal?
I'm in ag business right now. I know that I want to go into a career in business, and agriculture will always be a part of my life. So I can really hit both of those things with that class.
And I see on your plan that you're planning to take some college classes as you get a little bit further on too. How did you figure out what you want to do with college classes?
I talked to the counselors and then to my parent about what would be best suited for me and what I need to take for my college.
Great. And then one last question. I know that you listed your clubs and activities on there. How do those relate to what you want to do for a career?
FFA, I'm a leader in FFA, so it kind of shows me being a leader. And I've done competitions that can help me in my future career, like things with animals. I've done employability skills competitions, so it can help me with my future resume and job interviews. My clubs and activities give me more responsibility and leadership, which I'll need to have if I'm going to run my own business.
And what other things, I know that your folder, your IPS folder right now just has this document in it. What other things do you envision putting in that IPS folder?
Resumes, probably scholarship stuff, college plans maybe.
So describe what you've gained through your job shadow experience and how that has helped you so far in your own career.
From my job shadow, I learned about all the different kinds of welding there is. I learned how to TIG weld, which I didn't know previously, but I learned what metals can be combined and which ones cannot. And from it, I got a internship this summer.
What was your job shadow?
I job shadowed Mr. Thomas Morgan at Doug Oil Manufacturing and Clay Center. We just went over everything that he does. So manufacturing, welding, powder coating, all that. At Grove Clay County, I've learned a lot of things. I've learned that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And I've gotten a lot better at my people skills and talking to different people that I wouldn't talk to otherwise.
Describe your Zillow and career lessons with Mr. Brown.
Last year we took a test And it would ask us questions like, it asked us if we were like ready to work outside or not, and it was just a whole bunch of questions to get to know what we might want to do. And then it gave us a whole bunch of options. I had a whole bunch, and some of them were like things that I actually might like to do because of what I do in my free time.
What would you like to go into as a career?
Probably an EMT or something along the lines of like a teacher. We just talked about it a lot in class and we shared with our classmates what we might like to be in the future.
So what kind of stuff can Zoa help you achieve in your careers or figure out about your careers?
It can give you ideas of what you want to be and give you information about it. Carpenter.
You see carpenter objects. Is there anything else that you're like, that's kind of interesting? Like a climatologist, what's a climatologist, you know?
Someone that studies your climate,
Which would be what?
like water. And
Yeah,
stuff.
so let's see, go up to carpenter. Let's see what happens when we click on it. Let's explore it together. Scroll down. Panorama is a tool that we use to kind of track how our students are doing, both attendance, academics, and social emotional. We give a survey every semester to measure student social emotional well-being, where they are, and then it's updated nightly by connecting with PowerSchool to kind of give us attendance trends as well as academic performance. So what I'm showing you here is our attendance at one of the high schools at Clay Center High School, and it can show you kind of where we're at as far as our attendance, our average daily attendance, today's attendance, I guess it's yesterday's, and what trends we can kind of watch. And we're using this information then to go into the individual student data to tell us which students are at risk because they're not attending as regularly as we'd like them to be. So what we do, we dig deeper into this attendance data and look at it in a student by student basis. We can create groups where and I'll show you an example here, where I can identify students who are critical in academics and also critical in attendance. And then we meet as a team to decide what kind of intervention might be needed for the particular students that are in that category. We also keep an eye on those that are maybe at risk academically or at risk with attendance. So then we can intervene a little bit earlier before they reach that critical point of concern. Panorama also has a playbook, so teachers can use that to identify different interventions they might want to try with different individual students or groups of students. So it's a really cool way to track that. And we are also using that as counselors we set up small groups to kind of track their progress. Also with individuals, we can keep notes in there about different students and the interventions that we tried early on with our students, all the way back from elementary school up through high school. And so we are being very intentional about watching students' attendance rates, their academic performance. And when we see that those two things are not going well, we will meet as a team to discuss the individual students and what kind of intervention might be needed. So for some students, we'll just start with touching base with the student to talk about what's going on. We might form a small group of students who maybe have attendance issues to talk about some strategies and things they can do to want to come to school. Also, if students are really in that situation where it's a critical situation, or if it's a family with several students in the district that are in the same family having attendance and challenges, we'll have a parent meeting just to talk about what we can do to support them in getting the kids to school. So lots of things that we're trying to do with that panorama data regarding attendance to improve academic performance, and then which we hope will lead then to improving our graduation rate as they progress.
I've taken multiple dual credit courses. Personally, they help me get a 1-up in my future. I want to go to school, college for nursing, so it's helping me kind of get prerequisites and things like that out of the way.
How will it help you in your future plans?
Well, it'll make it easier for me to go to college and quicker, so I will have some stuff already done before I have to actually do those things. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'll do them, I'll get them done before.
How would you describe your experience with your dual credit courses?
So far it's been pretty good. It's taught me a lot of things. And since it's like my classes are like extra credit class or like high level science and English classes, it's helped me a lot in my classes that I'm taking now that have to do with it. So it's helped me improve a lot.
How will this dual credit online stuff help you in your future goals and what you want to do as a job or a career?
Well, one of my classes is an animal science class, and I was
it's like one of the main classes for like wildlife veterinarian jobs and stuff like that. So it's like teaching me a lot about that and like what to expect in the future. And my other classes like veterinary records and skills and stuff like that. So it's honestly just overall preparing me for both of them.
So dual credit hours at the high school are sort of two groups. There's online dual credits, which I've taken 2 classes of, and then there are classes in person with teachers. My experience with them is they are helpful, especially the ones in person, because they allow you to have better contact with teachers with smaller class sizes. They also allow you to go in after school and see the teachers if you need help. And since they're small classes, you normally have the teachers more than once in a day. So it allows you to grow a more personal connection to your teachers.
So one of our students, this was a student project and he took it and ran with it and did a wonderful job. And I thought it was a really nice job of celebrating some successes. And again, will be used as a part of our evidence for OBT visit here in the next, well, in December, I suppose. Something that I went to a legislative luncheon in Salina last Thursday, and this was also a topic discussed in depth at the KSB conference, and then again today with Senator Hawk. And I have some data to share. Jacqueline, if you pull the graph up. And so when we talk special education funding, the state is required to fund excess special education costs at 92%. For a last decade, they've hovered closer around the 70% mark. Last year was at 71%. And so when the state doesn't fully fund the excess costs, as a school district, we have to cover that excess cost. And that comes from local option budget and general fund. And this is every school district across the state. And so a lot of folks say, well, that's just for, special education. And it's not, because we are pulling money from general fund and LOB, local tax dollars, and funding a program that is statutorily supposed to be funded by the state. And as you guys know, if you follow the legislative sessions much, it's been talked about a lot. I think last year the governor proposed adding 30 million into the school finance bill to help cover some of that, but it's to fully fund it, it would be 30 million times 2 or 3 to fully fund the state. But what does that mean for Clay County schools? That means on average, we're averaging around $650,000 a year of supplementing that could be used to hire more teachers, to recruit and retain, to increase salaries, bring back some of the programs that we have had to cut over the years in order for funding reasons, especially back in the 08, 09, 10 era. A lot of cuts had to be made across the entire state because base aid per pupil funding was going down. Luckily with the Gannon case, it's coming up. But again, that doesn't affect special education. And so I share this and reiterate that we need to share our stories between now and when our legislators come back in January. Email our governor to ensure that her budget that she sends, proposed budget that she sends to legislators, has the fully funded special education in the budget, and email our local representatives. I was in Salina on last Thursday. There was about a dozen representatives from our region there, and maybe 50 or so superintendents and some board members. And we advocated very clearly to them what this means and share our data. These are real numbers. This is what it means to us at USD 379 when we have to supplement that excess cost. And so it's important, not just for the special education program, but for all kids and all general education programs. Full funding is essential to our work to support and inspire learning for every USD 379 student. Because when we have to take it out of general fund or LOB, it means it's strictly tied to special education and can't be used anywhere else. So it's highly important that we advocate for that. And then I did include in my report too, a little chart from Mrs. Last. She has led a valiant effort this year, targeted on attendance and chronic absenteeism. And I know a lot of our counselors and principals and teachers have done a lot of work on this, and Lisa's been a great lead on it. Dr. Watson shared in his address on Saturday morning, while much of our data, even through the pandemic statewide, is on an upward trajectory, chronic absenteeism across the state was at 25.7% last year.
And give the definition of chronic.
Yeah, so chronic absenteeism is defined as missing 10% or greater of the total number of days enrolled during the school year. It includes both excused, unexcused, out of school suspensions and in-school suspensions that last more than 1/2 of the school day. It doesn't include your trip to the volleyball team leaving to go compete, or the football team, or the cross country. It's just those data points from, and chronic absenteeism the year before across the state was 17%. Historically, 379, we have always been below the state average. And even though it drastically increased, I'm talking not last year, the year prior, we haven't seen our own data from last year yet from the state on our accountability reports that should be out this month. But we pulled our own data from Infinite Campus based on last year. And I think I shared some of that data with you guys on the number of school days missed. It was significant. And our hypothesis is that through COVID, some of our students and our families, yes, was there COVID related absences? 100% we know, but we also fear that some habits were formed within our students and our families of not maybe coming to school when they could. And so that's why Lisa hit the ground running this year with an effort to using Panorama, that they can look at attendance data across our district by building, by grade, by subject, and making personalized phone calls, home visits when we're hitting certain numbers of absences. And some of the latest data they pulled for the first 50 days of school, wow, they made some great progress. And so this is a year-to-year comparison for the same time period by building and by district. And so their efforts are working. And so hopefully we're building up those good habits of when to come to school and when not to come to school. And so I can't say enough for our staff and their effort on that. And it would be much more difficult for them to have intervened and or launched this without the use of Panorama. Panorama is a great tool. A lot of our buildings are using Panorama now. If they, an example I heard the other day from a principal was they try a new initiative through redesign on a day. Maybe it occurs over a month, a few days. They're watching their attendance on those days. Or like on the day we had for the high schools where they went on visits. Some did the prep, some did there were 4 different activities, but they were very intentional tracking attendance on that day. So they're using attendance data to see if what they're putting in place during the school day is encouraging students to come to school, or maybe discouraging them to help inform their decisions. And so some exciting stuff to share. And I just wanted to make sure that
The video was a great example of directly using a resource to make an impact positively for the district. And then that works towards outcomes we want to see, that we've talked about at our previous meeting about, lifelong skills of learning how to be an employable citizen. So, it all works together.
And the principals include that information in their principal's report, so
Yes.
it's public information for you guys to, or even our public to see, what the absenteeism is at each individual building. So that was one of the things that Randy Watson did mention and spent quite a bit of time talking about on Saturday at the convention. And you know, it is positive that our district is far better than our peers. And, you know, we need to celebrate the wins. We need to celebrate the good things that are happening in our schools, and that's very much one of them. So, you know, we commend Mrs. Last and her efforts, as well as, you know, it takes a village. So it's not just Mrs. Last, but it's everyone, you know, really working together. Because if we can't get our kiddos in school, we can't educate them. So, and it's not just the testing, right? There's so many things that go along with it, and that's some of the outcomes that we are really paying attention to make sure that our kiddos are ready for post-secondary success and can be contributors to society. So lots of factors that go into it, and why chronic absenteeism is, you know, one of the things at the top that we're paying attention to. Any questions for Mr. Nelson? Okay, then we'll move on to Anita's report.
We start with staffing. Hoping to come a week ago. We had Riley filled the first time in 2 years. We were fully staffed, and then we had a resignation, so back on there. So down to 5.5. It was 3.5 a week ago, but I did put some data that we got from our last meeting with the state director. And I know it goes back from 2016, but you know, some of that, when you think about what Mr. Nelson said about the excess cost, that is rising because the number of kids that we're identifying are rising too. And since 2016, it has risen by 2,600, just students with learning disabilities. We have openings. We know that, you hear that every month from me, but as of October of 22, there were 1,600 open positions in Kansas. Of those, 375 are special ed. So, and so of the teachers, 700 of the teachers are teaching on some type of a waiver. We have quite a few that are doing that for us on a TAP license or a limited apprentice license or a waiver. They have a teaching degree, but have gone back to special education. I think we have 3 that are on waiver.
I really like that incentive you guys gave for attendance. I thought that was some creative leadership.
Yeah, we're gonna do, so those that won are we're gonna put their names in the hat. So every quarter, we're gonna do that. At the end of the year, we're gonna do a $100 gift certificate or something. So if they get that every quarter, they have 4 times to win that, 4 chances. And if nothing else, we were trying to at least give an incentive to those who are always here and pick up the slack for those who aren't. But you know, of those, we had 6 perfect attendance, and some of the people who won that this time were people who were chronically gone last year. So that was kind of good. So the 99-cent Sonic, and they get it delivered in person, and a thank you. So didn't take much.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to Jacqueline, Director of Curriculum and Instruction Report.
I started the report, just kind of a KISA update. The timeline's actually on the back, or it's the very last page. You guys are kind of in the middle part of it right now with the leading the strategic planning and goal setting. On December 7th, we will present our report to our outside visitation team, and once that's all ready, you guys will get a link to all those documents and artifacts that are being sent in. And part of that process is not only sharing your journey the last 6 years, but what you're doing to look forward. And so hopefully we'll have all of our goals and everything set then by the end of the school year at the district level and buildings as well. So parent teacher conference results and turnouts are there, and had a really good fall parent teacher conference for sure. So Ben will be here to give a technology update. I wanted to give you guys an update on the virtual school. We have 5 students this year. A lot of this information is the same from last year, but I don't know if some of you will remember that our virtual school is a separate school. We have our own attendance rates, our own graduation, state testing, all of it. This is the 2nd year for that. And I put some numbers in here of our online opportunities. Edgenuity is our platform for our virtual school, but it also, as you can see, is actually used just as much, if not more, by our kids on site for elective opportunities, credit recovery, as well as we can use it for homebound students as well, or if a student would happen to be expelled, so they could continue learning. The online college courses, that's actually not on Ingenuity. That's either through Allen County, Colton Community College, or one of those. And then I went ahead and put just a look into the finances for the virtual school the last few years, not this year's, but the last few years really. The overall expenses has not changed. It's that virtual funding that kind of comes and goes depending on how many kids we have sign up. Something that will be new this year, we have 5 students. But and we reported the 5 on September 20th. We will have to turn in attendance logs and the credits that they earned. And if they are truant or not earning enough credits, the money will be taken away a year from now. So they'll kind of come back in. You know, we don't want our virtual schools to be a dumping ground. And we have some students in there that are very successful. I mentioned in my report that Mrs. Davidson and we do kind of interview families, and we can look at their attendance as well as their success with online courses and determine if it's the best thing for them. And so we do try to do that, and it works for some, it is not for all. And we have some very a handful of dedicated families that are utilizing it and doing a really good job. But we will see. I'm not sure where that will go, and if we'll have, you know, we're working very hard to not have that happen. But again, it's attendance and credits, so something that we continue to work on. And then I put on here a little bit about some of there's not a lot of professional learning right now. Just we finished up the 11th, obviously, with an in-service day, and 28th, our OBT team or our district leadership team will be prepping for our OBT team. But part of that November 11th is actually spent with our ELA adoption with our teams, talking back with their colleagues, and we're getting ready to interview some other school districts that are using some of the resources we're using. We have some resources we currently are using that we really do like as well, that we're going to have further conversation on. So we won't have anything for you guys until February or March, but that team's still working. We do have an outside resource from Service Center that used to be a former ELA teacher herself. So it's kind of nice to have her eyes and ears as a sounding board as well. She'll be here in December to work with us. And that's all I have till then report.
Questions for Dr. Thank you. All right, then we will get to McCoy join us for the annual transportation report.
Okay. Back here, is that okay?
Anita, would you mind just swooshing with my, let me get it off up.
They're just afraid I can't stand that long. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with my absences. They were justified, and thank you for the warm wishes. I appreciate it. So, first time doing this for me, so if I mess up, I apologize. I think everybody has a copy of what I put in there, kind of what my goals are. Looking back at this is I kind of scared myself a little bit how many changes I ended up making in the process, but I think everything's gone well. So we still have some more to do. So I don't know how detailed you want me to get in, but I mean, some of the changes that we've made, we've changed the buses, which we're all aware of, canceling the order and changing those up. And that's turned out to be a very good decision, because after review and changing routes and everything, it needed to be done. So where we're at vehicle wise is looking really good. The one bus that we have ordered, still don't have a date for it. Every time I talk to them, it's another 2 months. So it'll be here eventually. The expeditions will be here eventually too, hopefully by the end of the year. So we really need those. The staff, the teachers have been great on trying to get student counts to a better level that they can use the expeditions or the Suburbans to get students to activities. So that's been helpful with staffing issues. And a lot of the teachers actually kind of like driving their students in the smaller groups, so. That's worked out. As far as bulk purchases, we've kind of changed some of the way we're doing our bulk purchases. We try to buy as much in bulk as we can just for the cost savings. One thing that we hadn't been doing was the DEF. It's a fluid for the new diesels. They require kind of like gasoline, just different diesel fuel, just different. We've been buying it in 2.5 gallon jugs and putting it in there. We ended up getting a 250 gallon jug. We were spending about $7.37 a gallon in the 2.5 gallon jugs. In bulk, we're looking at about $2.63. So significant savings. I got the entire setup, the tank, the pump, the meter, everything cost less this year than it would have just to buy the 2.5 gallons. So after this year, everything's savings. So, and this year is actually still cheaper in the grand scheme of things. So. The software, we've been doing a lot of training in that, so it's getting there. We're actually gonna, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, have a meeting about doing the trip requests and all that. They're gonna, I know we've been working on the software as far as billing and coding, and there's gonna be so much that we're gonna be able to find out that we didn't know before. As far as, you know, who's using vehicles for what and the cost and everything. So there's gonna be a huge benefit to that. And just organizing, just
At the end of the year reporting.
End of the year reporting, absolutely. It's, yeah, it's amazing. And it's your typical program, as much data as you can put into it is as much as you get out of it. So it's taken a lot longer to implement, but we've been kind of coordinating, get cost codes and everything. So it carries over. So when it does go live, it'll be able to get you some really good reports. And again, we're going to find some savings on that. So, or at least budgeting that, you know, will be more accurate by far. Let's see here. So one of the issues that I walked into taking over was a radio system. It's very outdated. It was already in the works to do some repair work on what we had, but a lot of it's not even available at this point. It's outdated. Some other technology issues or camera systems in the buses are again outdated, not supported. They can't even. I talked to the manufacturer, said, can we retrofit these to get them up to modern standards? And by the time you buy, because it's the recorder basically that's been outdated. The cameras are still okay, but the recorders, they can't support you'll kind of get a kick out of the technology. They don't even make the cards. They aren't even SD cards or old enough. They're kind of like a floppy disk in between, and they don't make them anymore. So yeah, so we're kind of working on piloting, and I want personally dash cameras as well as interior cameras as well as rear cameras for stop arm violations. So we're kind of piloting some camera systems that are fairly inexpensive, trying to find something that's going to work. We do have one bus, the bus that's doing the in town, that I do want to buy, if possible, a full system for, just because it's a stop and go and a lot of traffic, a lot of kids on it. I want the best that we can get on that. So it's something that you'll see come through that I do
And
really
the
want
front
to.
and rear is for
Yes.
if somebody blows our stop arm, then we can report it to the police and get a license plate number.
Yep. And even there was a suggestion on some additional safety measures that can be taken at the admin meeting, and kind of looking into that. The state of Kansas won't let us do a whole lot. They're very strict on what we can do and what we can't do as far as any modifications to the bus. So even with the cameras, there's a system that goes on your stop arm that will catch, we can't do it. Okay, so it's kind of something that we've been looking into, trying to get as safe as we can, but our hands are kind of tied on any modifications that we can do. But there is a system out there that does have the front rear facing cameras that is acceptable to the state. So we'll get to that. And then,
Mike,
I'm sorry.
no, you're great. I just wanted to say, most days I go down to the in-town bus stop where my kids get dropped off, and all the cars have been very respectful of the kids getting on and off. So I do appreciate you looking into the cost of that, but I do think it should be said that our patrons are being very respectful of the kids getting on and off. the buses.
Absolutely. And we put the sign, most of the signs are up now, which are kind of, we got to paint curbs still, but weather's gonna get us on that one. Couple of the high traffic stops, I shouldn't say high, but the higher, the areas where we have more kids getting off. Some of the parents have actually kind of formed a group that they'll come out there and they'll stand when the bus comes and help the kids cross the road, which is great. I really wanted to see that. And when I put my letter out, I did request that, parents with kids under second grade, meet their students. Unfortunately, it isn't happening much. So it's nice to see these other parents that are kind of picking up the slack for the little ones because yeah.
The cars would be very respectful.
They are. We've only had a couple instances of it and it's been pretty good. So it's been nice to see. And I think it's been, in town, the ridership's actually going up. We thought it would go down. There were concerns about the time, that the bus was taking, but the ridership's going up. I'm sure weather has something to do with it. But I think it's going pretty well. No student is on there for more than 35 minutes because it goes around twice. It takes about an hour. So even though the route is in total is long, no student should be sitting on that bus unless they choose to, which they can for the full 2 loops. Sometimes we have students that have a sibling at another school, so they'll ride it the 2 loops to catch the other kid before they get off. So, and that was something we knew was going to happen. We tried to identify those kids and make sure that they knew we don't want kids joyriding 2 loops, but wanted to make sure that they knew that it was okay if they wanted to be with their siblings. So
The old
I
elevator,
thought maybe
up, down, up, down.
we were using it for anywhere. Yeah.
afternoon daycare.
Right.
Radio system, I'm getting into that one. That one's kind of a neat one. I've talked to several other school districts about it. I'd like to get on with the KDOT highway patrol system. It's an option for us. It's kind of a new option, but a lot of school districts are taking advantage of it. They update the entire system. We don't have any cost and we already have a license. We just have to get the radios and get the license number. So we don't have to maintain a license anymore, which we're having to do. Don't have to maintain our tower anymore, which we can't really maintain anymore. And the radios are outdated. So there was already a budget item for replacing or repairing the radios that we could. I would really like to try to pilot 6 handhelds. And we had this discussion about if we wanted permanently mounted ones in the buses or handheld ones. Kind of the consensus was the drivers would prefer handheld ones. Couple of reasons. If you're going on an activity, you can take the radio with you. If you're going out, or if you had an emergency, you actually had to exit the bus, you could take the radio with you. Wouldn't have to be tied to the bus. So the standard procedure is if it's mounted in the bus, you put your microphone outside the window, and if you have to communicate, but if it's a handheld, you take it with you and use it. They're also substantially cheaper, about $1,000 each cheaper, 2,000 versus 3,000, and just be something that they would charge. So the drivers are gung ho for it. I'd like to pilot it with our very rural buses because we have no communication other than cell phone right now. So I'd love to get 6 of them and at least get our buses that are going way out there so we can communicate versus, cell phone when we can. So
How's the range on the handheld?
statewide. Yep, the only difference, and I talked to, actually the best resource on that was the local police department. They're on the same system. And the handheld, the only difference is they say when they're inside a concrete or brick building, or in a basement, they have difficulty getting out. But otherwise, statewide, out in the rural areas, it's just fine. It's just when they're inside in a confined area, which doesn't really apply to us. So that's not where we're gonna be. So that was the only downfall that they had with that. So kind of excited about that. That should be a good one. And I don't want to take up all your time. I could keep going all day, but do you have questions for me or any? I kind of have I finally got somebody hired, yay, part-time, but he's on the agenda for tonight, so that's been fantastic. And the other thing that I'm really, I have my list, my whiteboards, make fun of me. I have a big whiteboard behind my desk. Yeah, I know. But I'd love to see if we could get a monitor. And this is kind of going with a head start for our pre-K bus. We got at one point 21 pre-K kids on this bus with one driver, and it's becoming an issue. So if we could get a monitor to help with some of the Houdini children we have on there and some of the crying, stripping for shoes all over the place and socks all over the place by the end of the route. So, but yeah, something I'd really like to address, and one of the things our drivers would really like to see too. So that do that.
We'd be happy for you to bring it to the board.
Okay, absolutely.
Here's your recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yes.
It is noticed and appreciated, and we see the effort you're making for the changes for the betterment of our students, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the warm wishes through my challenges. So thank you.
Yeah, questions for that? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to Ben, just the last piece. Let's go.
All right, I guess, update you guys kind of what we've been doing. This past summer, we got some new computers. We got new 5th grade computers, new 8th grade computers, computer lab and secretary computers. Where that was the bulk of the program we did this summer in installation. We did also implement the cybersecurity measures that I talked about last time, and those 3 are Know Before, Sophos, and BARC, and I'll talk about those a little bit more to go along. The fall, typically a fall is a busy time for us, just because teachers are coming back. You need to install printers, or there's always something's new coming out and something's breaking, so it's a busy time for us. And we also did have Kite came out with an update in August, and Kite is one of the testing software that we use for our students. And it came out with an update in August, and we found out that in order to install that update, we needed to do an OS update on a bunch of the computers that we had. So we were busy pulling those out, getting those set up, and that was right before school started. We got some of them done before school, some of it went into the school year, and we still have some more to do. So right now, we got the middle school's all done, 7th and 8th grade and 6th grade. 3rd grade we have done. 4th and 5th grade are ones we're kind of still working on a little bit. And we have a plan to get those done, and we're working on some today, and we're just kind of pulling them out when we can to get those. Those have to be done by December 2nd. Yeah, so it's coming up here quick. So hopefully we'll get all those done. We need to get all the Wakefield computers done too, and we got a plan to get that done. So it's kind of where we are with that. The cybersecurity, in August, Jacqueline and I took a little tour of all the buildings, and we did about a half-hour, 45-minute presentation on Know Before, a little bit about Sophos, and a little bit on BARC. As you guys know Before is the software that we use to basically send out phishing attacks to the teachers and see how they're responding, and
And the superintendent.
yeah.
We cover that.
I'm not gonna mention any names.
Okay,
I was
great.
told I can't do that by the superintendent. Superintendent told me I couldn't mention.
But we do get a report, and we can tell who clicked on what.
You guys wanna see the report? I'll send
We
it.
get
No, but they're kind of tricky, and a lot of times, you just keep clicking through emails and you're not really paying attention. It looks good. So this is kind of to bring attention to that.
And it does bring attention to it. It's like. And I think you guys said at the beginning, that's not intended to catch somebody, it's intended to train and rethink our thinking, and it's helped me too, to really, click on that email address, make sure you know who it's from. So
we did an initial testing, I think, right near the beginning of summer, actually, and had some trouble with it. The second testing, we thought we had all the bugs worked out, and we went out and we ended up, we had about half of them went out, half of them didn't go out. The next round of testing, basically, we're doing it every month. The next round, everything went out, which was good. So everyone got tested in the district. The first couple was like 40 or 50% click rate, where people were clicking on. This last one was about 35, which is still high, but it's still early in the training. So we're hoping that we can get that number down and people start clicking less. They are pretty
I'm
tricky.
telling you, it like shows the picture and the person is coming from, the email is almost exact.
Are you?
Should we send it to the board members?
Well, I think it would be interesting to see what you're sending.
Yeah.
Does it appear that they won something, or what is it?
A lot of them come from HR at USD379.org.
Okay.
So they are really tricky, and
They look professional.
They're from the sector.
For the tech team.
But then
Not
they're not tech team, but like tech support or something. I forget something. like
Okay.
that. So it is kind of tricky, and they even put the logo. You can put the district's logo on there, and so
Picture of the person.
the picture of the person can pop up. That just that actually pulled from your account, because it was everything on there. So. But it is tricky. So
Slow down.
So, yeah,
Maybe
so
we should
it's,
be included in your next, it's just any of our cybersecurity is.
okay, I'll see if we can do that. I'm not, you guys don't have USD 379,
We do not.
so I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can get you guys.
That's really good.
Sophos is the other new thing we got, which is our antivirus or endpoint security. And it's really nice. I can get a picture of everything that's going on. If computers aren't updating, it notifies me on the cloud. So I just log into their portal and I can see what's going on, if we're having troubles in some areas. So it's been really nice. It's been good. And Bark is our student safety software where we monitor student safety, and the principals are basically the ones who deal with all that stuff. So when something comes in, the principals are notified. I'm also notified, so I can check and make sure that they're doing stuff. I think it's working pretty well. So I'm just talking with them. So phase 2 of cybersecurity, we're still researching. We have not found a good software for that yet. And that's going to be for the classroom monitoring. So the teachers can monitor and control where the kids are in the classroom and what they're going to. We haven't found the right software for that. And I need to do more research. We've been busy with some of these other things. It's kind of slowed me down in that phase a little bit. Multi-factor authentication, we've talked with Skyward about implementing that. We're still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do that. There's a couple different ways to do that. So that's basically where you have to, log in. You log in with your password and then it sends you a text and that type of thing. So we're working on that for cybersecurity there. E-rate. Okay, E-rate. You guys understand E-rate, where that money comes from and that type of thing? E-rate it's federal money. Basically, it's a phone tax that all phones are charged. Anytime you get a phone, you get taxed there, and we get funding for that. There's 2 different categories. Category 1 would cover internet and WAN, so we get about a 70% discount on our internet and a 75% discount on our wide area network. That connects all of our buildings together. Category 2 funding is for hardware to support, basically to support your network. Any type of hardware that does that. Doesn't cover devices or computers and that type of thing. But we get about a 70% discount there too. Category 2 is a 5-year window or 5-year cycle that you have to work in. So once you start a year, it starts at 5 years. The total amount we have to get in that cycle is about $271,000 is what we have. And that's how we have updated our Wi-Fi network. We get a new Wi-Fi out of that. Any switches. It also covers other things like UPSs, our filtering, our CP filtering covers some of our filtering, and what else? It basically any network related services it does as far as and hardware too. So we're going to try to get apply for some more funding there to try to get some as much as we can of that money spent. And like I said, it's 70% discount on basically on anything you get on there. So if we can find and need stuff, it's a good way to save some money, and we have used that before. 5-year.
We'll do that last.
Okay. Okay, the copier leases, our copier leases are due in July. And we kind of have a timeline set up on when we want to do that. We're probably going to send the bids out on May 1st. May 15th, the bids will be due, or we'll have our bid opening. And then the June board meeting, we'll get that approved. And I have talked with some vendors and they said the prices on the copiers are shooting up pretty high right now. So it's something we need to look at. And I mean, it's good. There's going to be a cost increase there probably.
Is a June board meeting soon enough for you to be able to get that turned over the summer? Or
We did the last time.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if the supply was different.
Yeah.
It's something we could check on for sure.
Yeah.
Just we can bring it up, but our current ones.
It
Well,
expires.
they're critical to learning. You
Yeah.
can't have
Yeah.
a building without a copier.
It's pushing out drivers. When we get all of our devices on our Mosul, which is our management system, and we're going to have all the staff ones on there too, it's real easy to push out drivers through that. If you have to manually add them to each one of them, it takes a lot of work, which we've had to do in the past.
It's
Every
gonna
time we got
change
these
with new
updates,
staff
so.
computers, because they'll be on Mosul,
Yeah.
and that will drastically, that has always been a hard thing for our staff to
Yeah.
get the copiers added in,
Yeah.
so.
Mosul has really been helpful to us, and that's how we manage the computers. And once we get everything on there, it's gonna make our life a little bit easier. Not 100%, but it'll slow things, make things easier for us. The OS updates we tried to push out through Mosul didn't work, so we have to manually do those. So it's still lovely. Okay, 5-year cycle.
They're just no actuals, just estimates.
So what we're talking about doing is basically we have it on a 5-year cycle. And this coming up year, or this current year, we have iPads and Chromebooks. We just kind of need to evaluate where we need to spend that money. What's right now, the Chromebooks, we have some Chromebooks that are starting to fail. So we're probably going to be purchasing some Chromebooks this summer. I think probably more Chromebooks than iPads. Our iPad stock is in pretty good shape right now. So at those grade levels.
And that's still third graders with
Second grade.
second grade.
Pre-K through second grade.
Okay.
And then if like the older iPads, we'll use with pairs and that type of thing, if we have older ones that we don't use, so we keep those rolling through. Through 3rd through 7th grade, we're on a rotation there. I believe, what are we on next year?
We talked about them.
Yeah.
The flipperoo.
Yeah. Currently, the way we had it set up originally, we replaced 2nd grade, then we replaced 3rd grade, then 4th grade, but that means that
That class gets.
one class gets brand new computers and the other class gets
Going backwards
old
now.
computers. So we're gonna try to flip it and go reverse. So we're gonna have to move some computers around this summer to do that. So, and I think it's,
It'll-
Yeah.
We think we have,
Yeah.
we sketched it out.
we got a plan.
We got a plan. It's hard to explain.
And then we also have 8th grade computers, and what we decided to do is every year we'll get 8th graders will get new computers and they'll carry those through high school, and at the high school, they can buy those. That's when we talked about with you guys before. The teacher computers are coming up. We divided them into 2 groups. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we're gonna, we counted the numbers and everybody always wants to be first on that, so, we have the staff split, and we're gonna spin a wheel on
I'm just
January
gonna say, are you
3rd.
doing a
Yeah,
lottery?
no,
Oh,
Can be a wheel.
it's a wheel,
okay.
and we'll see who, we're gonna do it live on January 3rd and see who gets to go first and who gets to go second. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The next item is battery backups, and those will be E-ratable. That amount is, I think that's after the E-rate discount on the UPSs. These go in our wiring closets to basically, in case power goes out, it provides a battery backup and surge protection, so it protects them from surges. Student safety, that would be the BARC. That's BARC. That's our yearly subscription for BARC. Student management, that's something we're still looking at. So.
Just a few numbers for you guys. We still have about $6,000 worth of ECF funding that we're approved for, that we didn't use last year. And then we took in 3,700 on the senior laptops last year. And almost 11,000 in recycling, and we still have a slew. We haven't sent off any this fiscal year for recycling.
The garage is
It's
very,
time.
very full. Yeah, right.
It's time.
We'll get a little bit from that.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll, they're desktops, so I don't know how much we'll get, but we'll get some money from those in, so. We did sell a lot of computers last year.
We did. 37.
37, we sold
I
37.
knew they were very economical for the kids. to
Yeah, they
purchase.
were $100. I mean, they're older. We were kind of surprised that they bought them, but their kids were just, they really wanted them, so it's a big deal. And this year, the computers are gonna be 3 years old. I've looked at that a little bit, and Apple came out with the new M1 processor. So these are the Intel processors, and the retail on those is not gonna be as high as we're hoping. We were hoping for, $300-400, but it's probably not gonna be that. It's probably gonna be closer to $250 range, so on the resale on those. So,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see, and I'll get some more. That was just me kind of glancing and seeing a couple things out there. I haven't talked with any vendors yet, but that was just a rough estimate on what I was looking at. So.
There won't be any, purchases or anything until February, March, whatever. I would say January, February, we put in a report, the plan to go out for bids, and then what day those would come to you guys. So.
Ben, I just got a quick question. So in the past couple years since COVID, we've been able to afford a one-to-one basically for every student. That adds quite a workload.
Yeah.
To have the gift of technology for our students. How are you, how's it going? I
It's
guess?
been a lot, and like I said, Mosel was this a lot with the
Okay.
management system, and that's, we implemented Mosel, right? We were working on it right when it was,
Right.
when COVID.
When it was
coming out,
necessary.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's in, back in, it's spring break of 2020, it was real busy trying to get everything done, but,
Between our staff and students, we have a lot of
We-
computers.
yeah, and we are very busy, and we do try to get summer help, we try to bring someone in, and we're gonna continue to do that, try to bring 1 or 2 people in the summer to help us out too.
Do you guys know what Mosel is?
I do.
Without Mosel, it would be very hard to have 2 people on this many devices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it
Basically,
is.
it pushes out applications and everything to the computer, so we don't have to manually update them individually, so.
And it will drastically help to get the staff on there. And right now, we're just last 2 years, 3 years, any new staff member, they are on those. I mean.
Mhm.
But that's not the majority of our people, so we'll get there through the next adoption. Of staff devices.
We keep busy and we cuss, we put a cuss jar in the tech room, so. No, there's no money in it, we just. put it in. It's
Right.
jar,
Empty.
Okay.
Empty jar.
Any further questions?
Did the computer labs, are we good to go with the high school computer labs that?
Yep, Yeah, we got the new ones in Plainfield, so they're up and going. They're pretty happy with their job, so. All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you, thank you for your time.
And that takes us to the discussion of business item section and a couple of items here this evening. The first being the Garfield Gymnasium acoustics. So you have some information and a couple of bids to discuss.
Yeah, sure. After digging in, this has been a problem for a very, very long time. Even Jacqueline's principal days there, some of you that were in school there, I think probably knew, and I've heard from some old timers about it. So we did, as you guys know, authorized us to hire an acoustical engineer to come in and do a study on that facility because the district has tried so many different things over the years. We didn't want to throw good money at bad and just randomly try something. So we did spend a couple $1,000s to hire an acoustical engineer. They brought their equipment in, they gave us a report, the report's attached to the board report. And so if you're interested in what that report reads, you can go out there and check that out. And so basically they came and I talked to the one of the engineers that did our study today. And he reiterated again, I forget the technical terms that he used, that the noise was extremely high in that space and pretty rare from when he goes out and does these studies. And so they provided us with 2 recommendations. One was basically a spray across the entire ceiling that will absorb the sound and take it below what they have set as adequate levels. Or option 2 was to put sound paneling around every wall available and hang panels, like a whole bunch of panels across the entire ceiling. And so we opted to go with the spray there. That was their recommendation. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. And you're not going to have baffles hanging from the ceiling. I think it's shown in a map on his report, both the options. And so it will be a kind of a matte, smooth surface to the ceilings, and this new spray and the technologies that it contains are aesthetically pleasing. They hold up well in gymnasium areas. And I said, so we'll know the difference, right? And he said, anybody who's ever been in that gym will be absolutely amazed the first time they walk into it. With the new repair fix to it. And so, and we do have, it's just not a good environment. They can't hold assemblies, or if they do, it's very difficult to hear. They can't use it as a learning space now because it's not conducive to learning. And we also have some students, if the student has any kind of sensory needs or auditorial needs, it's not a space that they can actively participate in their schooling in. So we I went in and adjusted the capital outlay budget a little bit because it was, I think I originally had 20, it's 29. So we moved some things out around it. We wanted to, and we got it to where it fits and works. And I think it's just something we need to do, unless you guys have a strong opinion.
When can they do it?
That was,
Haven't gotten that far yet. The hard part is what made it more expensive was we didn't plan for it. There's not a doorway they can get an automatic lift through. So they're gonna have to bring in scaffolding to do it, which is going to increase the length of time that it takes them to get it done.
So is the suspended ceiling coming down?
they're gonna spray over the suspended thing.
I'm not sure.
Wouldn't think they'd want to spray on a tile and with wet, it would make that tile.
Both our bidders came on site and evaluated.
Because it was recommended to take the suspended ceiling down and spray that stuff by that company. That doesn't say anything about doing that. But if you take the suspended ceiling down, then you have lights and everything else to deal with.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not suspended,
I thought it was,
it's glued, it's like
Yeah.
attached to the,
Oh, it's
See,
glued.
yeah,
it's not, or nailed and glued, because they came and looked at it. It's not a drop ceiling,
Okay,
yeah.
it goes right to the,
well, it looks
I
in this
remember
picture, it
getting-
looks like maybe it's 1 foot by like 18 inch or 2 foot squares, looking at that picture. But it said in that report from that company that came out and did the sound deal that it would probably have to come down, but it doesn't say in any one of the bids that they're gonna do that.
Well, but the bid doesn't
However, the
specifically
installation
state what
is
they're going to
required.
do and not do.
Okay,
It just says materials and labor, so we don't.
I wouldn't think they'd
I
want to
don't think
spray
it
1
does
inches of
include it,
thick.
so, because it
I wouldn't think
says.
you'd want to spray 1 inch thick. That one company, well, the company that's recommended to use said it's gonna take 2 weeks for it to dry. So that means it's gonna be pretty wet when it's going on.
I know students would be displaced during that time, but I would advocate that. We. Keep a timely manner on this because it is very difficult in there.
Just being around spray foam before, that stuff's pretty. the smell
Yeah,
can
they,
get pretty-
this is their business, though. I'm sure they're planning for covering and.
so the companies that we use, these acoustical engineers gave us the list of recommended providers that they use in schools all across the Midwest, so this is something they do.
So it says that additional or proper ventilation will be required. It says 2 weeks. So is that just for the area? Does it require additional ventilation for other parts of the building?
That's just something we'll rely on their expertise when we start planning the timeline and the process for it. We'll rely on them to give us recommendations for what we need to get done and how we need to do it. So. Again, after talking to them, they're in schools on a regular basis doing this kind of thing, so. The advice is,
I would agree with Jeff, though. I'd be curious to hear if they are planning to be able to take on the tiles and spray it and still have it done in 5 days. That's pretty ambitious. Since, I mean,
But it doesn't say how many people they're bringing.
Yeah.
it's true.
complete
It's
the
just
job.
something I just like
So-
to make sure that they saw that sentence right there where it says, due to this product, the recommendations to remove existing ceiling tile first. Don't want to micromanage them, but just want to make sure that they are aware of what I would hate to have this, open the gym up and then have tiles fall off the ceiling. That would be bad.
certainly something I will.
I think this is a necessary improvement for Garfield, for the students, and I move to get final approval to accept the bid from the Hayes Company in the amount of $29,256.
Motion. Second the motion. I'm sorry. Did you second it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, next item is item B, which is questions, the sale of the property.
Yeah, sale of property. I've got 3 envelopes delivered today, so, honestly don't know what's what or where. They just don't have USD 379 on them, so we will just open them individual and see what we have. Maybe. This is offer to purchase the Court Street lots. I don't know whether, because of the way we did this, where we are opening everything at the board meeting, do you want me to just open them? Would it be feasible to open them, take a short break while we make, does everyone want copies, or you want me to just read through these things?
I think we've all seen the bid sheets and we know what the properties are. I think we just need to know who's
Yeah,
bidding,
go through
who's
it.
bidding it, who's, what the
Gotcha.
price is.
So this is the Court Street lots. It's Penny Lane Investments LLC. The bid for that is $1,000. They do have a refund. We talked about it. I mean, the offer sheet had a non-refundable down payment. They have a refundable down payment, I'm assuming, in regards to if we're unable to provide title or whatever, because there are some contingencies. On that one, there's no contingency. So $1,000, 10% down payment, close on her before January 30th. No contingencies, cash offer. Then their miscellaneous provision, they just want option to change buyer's name for ownership of property prior to closing, for title purposes. Go. Any questions on that one? Then you have the offer to purchase on the McKinley School playground property. Same thing, this is Penny Lane Investments. They have offered a purchase price of $1,000. Same thing, January 30th closing, no contingencies, and option to change buyer's name for title purposes.
The last one from that buyer was a cash offer, is that also?
Yeah, this is, yeah,
Okay.
no contingencies, cash offer. Last one here is the offer to purchase Otto Henry Stadium property. Again, Penny Lane Investments. The purchase price of $302,000. Same thing, refundable down payment. Closed on it before January 30th. Contingencies on this one. Purchase based on appraisal of property and financing. And then the only other on the miscellaneous is option to change buyers.
So by that statement of purchase on appraisal and financing, if it doesn't appraise for that, they don't want to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, if it
But
doesn't
that's-
appraise for that, they won't be able to get their
They won't be able to
financing.
get
and-
that.
They can only get financing probably for 80%, not even that probably. That'd be surprised.
What was the purchase? What was the offer amount again?
302.
Nobody needs a copy of any of that to review. Anybody want a copy to review? Okay. Well, I, for one, have never been a part of this process, so, I'll help lead us through this, but Dusty, I'm gonna rely on your expertise as well. So.
I mean, you want to take them up one at a time, I would imagine. Whether you care
Maybe the
about,
order in which you opened them. or-
okay,
I don't know.
so you got Fourth Street lots, the 4 lots down there on the southeast kind of side of the stadium. And they've offered $1,000 for that.
No contingencies, cash offer, closed January 30th.
Yeah.
So our options are,
Yeah.
we accept.
Except,
I
yeah.
mean, right, so walk us
Right.
through this. real
Yeah, I'm
quick.
sorry, yeah, I mean, option would be a motion to accept that offer, and then we would enter into the contract. You could reject the offer, or you could, but it would be a rejection of the offer if you make some type of counter offer or go back or something, but yeah, essentially accept, reject, or start over.
17,000 less than paid for. Just throwing it out. Let it run for another 60 days. I think I'll let all of them run for another 60 days. I've only got one bid. Okay, true.
Maybe do a little more advertising.
The 2 lots are much under appraised valuation, but, I don't know if that matters to board members or not.
And we can get property as well, purchase price of $1,000. And we're not talking about.
That's what I meant, the
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah. Guess I'll make a motion that we wait on the first. Talking about the lots. For another 30 days. To see
So
what we
motion to
get
not accept the offer and continue to market the lots on
Until,
Fourth Street.
until the next board meeting. 5 p.m. the Monday of the next board meeting, so in case the 30 days doesn't matter exactly.
And you want that to be, well,
Well, remember, that'll be our goal setting.
Okay, we have a motion a second for that first property to wait until the next board meeting. See if we get further bids.
and I guess just additional discussion, do you want, so is your intent with that the same process? I mean, you have the same offer type form, but they're due 5 o'clock on whatever the date of the next board meeting is.
Right.
It's well,
Sorry, the next regular board meetings.
I mean, because another option would be to list them. I mean, if you were to say you wanted to list the property or do something, I mean, try a different avenue, I don't know. But if you want to go 30 days like this and see what happens and then go from there.
See if a higher bid comes in, I guess is probably where everyone's thinking. I don't know. Yes, the opportunity would be the same bidder has an opportunity to submit the same bid again, potentially, so we could be sent the same spot. Regular board meeting next month. The same decision before us, so.
I think
Motion in a
that's,
second.
and so the motion includes reject the offer on the Court Street properties and accept bids until 5 o'clock December 12th.
The motion.
December 12th or December 5th.
December 12th, the regular board meeting. So next, I meant regular when I said that, but we have one before.
December 12th. Okay,
And a motion a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, second one.
that's the second one is the McKinley School Playground property. Same thing.
Would you like to make that motion?
Maybe. I would like to make a motion to also reject the current bid. Or offer, and then to give it until the December 12th board meeting, 5 o'clock. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further questions? All those in favor of that motion? Motion carries 7-0.
Then the last one on the stadium, 302,000.
We hear the
With
rest
the-
of the. Can you use
Want
the
that
rest
again?
of the details,
Yeah.
please?
$302,000. Refundable down payment of 10%. Close on January 30th, on or before January 30th. Based upon the property appraising and finance, obtaining financing. Then just miscellaneous option, change buyer's name prior to closing for title purposes. That would essentially amount to, 302,000, be 30,200 down, be 271,800 due at closing. Contingent upon appraisal and acquiring financing. Enabled to change buyer's name for title purposes.
That meets the minimum requirement that we had established. I move that we accept bid for the auto owner property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Go by roll call if it's not.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. All those in favor of that motion will go, actually, no, I'm sorry, we'll go by roll call. Paige? Yes. Linda?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
April? Yes. Deborah? No. Andy?
Yes.
Jason?
No.
Motion carries 4-3. We'll move on then to the next item, which is a
So that-
district goal setting.
I'll get with them to get a contract put together then, and would be, I mean, the contract was part of the offer package.
Right.
So the
Those are down payment check in that bid.
no, that would be at the time they sign the contract. So if we probably need to, you've approved the offer, probably need a motion to approve April signing the contract as presented at 302 with 10% down. And that way, when they sign and have their escrow money available, we sign the contract and start moving towards that closing.
I move to approve April Pearson to sign for the purchase contract as our board president.
Do we need that motion, Rusty?
What's that?
Do we need that?
Yes.
Okay, okay, sorry, I didn't hear that part. So we have a motion, a second. All those in favor? Okay, we'll call that roll call again. Paige,
Yes.
Linda, yes. Jeff,
No.
April, yes. Deborah? Andy,
Yes.
Jason?
No.
Motion carries 4-3. Okay, next item is district goal setting.
Yeah, just wanted to give you guys an update and we have in the board report a link to the survey that'll go out to the community. Our hope is August has some preset emails ready to roll for the morning. And so I just wanted to give you a last chance to discuss anything in the survey. I think you guys have seen it out there for a while now. There was a couple of suggestions by a few of you that we made some tweaks to and adjustments. So we would get that out to tomorrow morning and we would send it to obviously our school parent group through our Power School Alert. And then we would also identify some different organizations within our county that could also try to help us circulate it as much and far wide as possible. So if you have suggestions, shoot me an email, let me know. If you know some groups that you run in or circle in that you think would be good to get that link to, let me know or August know, and we'll make sure we get that link or share it yourself. You know, if you're in a group or organization, you know, go ahead and do that.
Are
And
we
I-
sharing it through our 379 social media or? Okay,
Yeah, we'll do social media, test alert, all our normal stuff, and then we'll kind of try to branch out as far as we can.
Okay.
As in that regard. Included the group there of the community members and kind of the approach that we have used thus far. We took nominations from all the board members, and so all the board members' nominations were put in on the sheet. Felt like it was important that we included you guys as input. The Citizens Review Committee will all get an invite. That was a group you guys already agreed on. Each school will have 2 teacher reps. The principals, obviously. And then the site councils varied greatly in size. For example, some had closer to 20 and some had, 10 or under. And so for equity and to get the list somewhere around 95 with hoping for a 75% response rate to try to hit that 75 to 80, we drew, August drew names out of a bucket. We put all the site council members' names in there that were not teachers, that were parents, because we already had the teacher reps. And August drew 5 names out. And we put those in, so they will get invites.
5 for each school.
5 for each school, thank you. And then we have the board recommendations, we have board members, myself, Mrs. Spitzenmeyer. And we can add to this, and like KSB said, if somebody just is dying to come, we're not gonna turn them away, we just need them to RSVP. Because we're gonna have dinner. So if you hear of somebody, and we'll put that in our information too, but so we'll send personalized email invites to the 95 or so. We're still looking for a couple more classified folks to add, so I'm gonna work on that this week to try to make sure we have that voice represented. They'll get a personalized email and then we'll send the survey out tomorrow too.
maybe an odd question. Do you need us to RSVP or are you counting on us?
We're counting on you to be there
Okay.
and to run a group. KSB will
I
tell you how.
I was planning to be there, so I'm considering this my RSVP.
Okay, we got you.
I don't want to be counted short for dinner, please.
And we're going at the middle school and their
Okay.
commons.
Great.
Felt like that would accommodate our number well. They have a screen,
Table.
they have a microphone. And so, in the kitchen, Chartwell's is gonna serve pizza. So. Looking forward to it. I ran into a few different districts who had done the strategic planning over the last 5 years with KSB and heard some really great feedback from other school districts who were really happy with their product. So excited that you guys are taking the time that it's a time commitment to do it, but
Important, very important.
Hopefully our goals will be relevant and updated by the end of the process, so. I don't think I need any action from you tonight. I just more wanted to give you another opportunity to share any feedback or anything along those lines. This item.
Looking forward to hearing from the community. It should be a good night.
And just so everyone, I think we talked about it last time, but 80 is our target number, but it will take more than that if we need to.
Okay, let's move on then to the next item, which is the TELEX student behavioral support and assistance. Got a report here to consider adding a behavioral specialist to help serve 16 buildings. That's accurate. Do I have my number right? 16 buildings across our 5 districts. Currently have one and need another. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, this has just been, as it relates to post-COVID, and just about every circle that I run in school leadership wise, explosive behaviors are through the roof everywhere. You combine that with staffing shortages, repair shortages, and just that help and support from really those explosive behaviors. And a lot of folks don't know or are not aware of these things going on, but daily in our schools, we have significant behaviors occurring, and our regular ed and special education teachers really need more help and support. And with one person, just not doable. All the TELEX soups we met last week, and they shared the same thing in their districts. We just need some more support for not only our students, but our staff. And we're well aware TELEX been carrying some adequate balances at end of year, and using some federal dollars to help pay for retention incentives and some things like that. And so we're well aware as a TELEC advisory board, and remember, we're just advisory to you guys. We still have to get your permission, but we're unanimous in that we needed more support in that area, and we're well aware that down the road that may impact our assessments, but we think that it's dollars worth spending. And if some partial special ed funding would come through, it would take care of itself.
They get cut into.
Right.
So the funding for this position comes from where?
TELEC.
All TELEC? Divided up in the assessments? So the assessments aren't that one.
Well, as it stands now, we have enough
We've
funds
got
to
COVID
cover.
money for a couple years that we can cover it, but
Okay.
it's needed.
Okay.
And we'll get cat aid, so it's not a whole position. $30,600 right now towards the salary would be funded.
I move to get final approval to hire an additional 1 FTE behavior specialist.
Second.
Second, any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, at this point, we move into the executive session portion of our meeting. So maybe other thing to sign, we don't for students. So yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break. Go on live again.
Yep.
See you.
you are.
Okay, we're live. All right. Sure. And maybe go into executive session. Somebody have theirs for me.
To discuss a matter concerning attorney-client privilege pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception under KMOA, that the open meeting shall resume at meeting
8:23.
8:23 in the boardroom. The executive session should. It will resume in the boardroom. The executive session should include the board superintendent and council.
Motion and second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
You ready for your next motion?
Wait,
No.
no, we got a minute here anyway, sorry.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to personnel. The personnel report.
Just something that we've known and then have been anticipated coming certified retirements are already rolling in and, anticipating some more, but, we're gonna have to do some hard work this spring recruiting. So.
What's the cutoff date for the bonus?
December 31st.
December 31st.
So, I don't know, nothing actionable right now, but we're gonna have to. Get out and find some people. We're definitely in the norm, even at the KSB conference, like. You asked every table that you sat with, like what the biggest staff, certified. We're teaching ELA and math from a computer, you know, from a remote teacher in another state. And we are very.
We were in the minority at KSB of having our
certified
positions filled. But, you know, our current staff can add more items to their licensure too, through some different avenues the state has, if, you know, you can add options to your licensure is another option for personnel.
And I think with bus drivers and custodians, you guys might be hearing from us in the next month or two on those two groups of employees. They're just terribly hard.
To recruit and retain.
Yeah. I don't know what that looks like yet, but we're gonna. We gotta do something different, right? The definition of this insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expect a different result. So I don't know what that'll be, but I think those are two groups that we really need to work on, so.
I would. Knowing that that is still true, it would be great to know what other districts are. Yeah, just kind of do some research around the state and see if you can. See what other soups are paying, or, you know, what other businesses in town or in the community or area are paying for those kind of things, just so that we have some sort of benchmark and we're discussing it.
We just did that.
They're all short.
Yeah.
They're. I mean,
We did, I don't know that we broke it down, or maybe bring back that information.
Yeah, I have a transportation activity, regular route driver wages.
Negotiation stuff, maybe. It's easier for me to remember.
And for, you know, looking ahead at future meetings and stuff too, remember the December 12th meeting, we'll probably have personnel on there.
Mhm.
And probably not very much else, whatever we're gonna have to do our financials. We're gonna have to do some of those essential things. But we're gonna try to make it super short so that you guys can hold a very brief, hopefully. Regular meeting, and then we jump right into KSB.
Well, I move to approve the personnel reports presented. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
I move to adjourn.
Second.